Part 2. Adrius. Our best boy. Our friendo. What a tripping hazard of a throne room. Those are tall steps.
Set up the fire code.
Just very tall steps. And then changing texture every step of the way, yeah. A chilly draft settles onto the ground beneath Adrius's hooves. The entire throne room is thick with silence. The silence is so strong that no one could possibly hear their own thoughts echoing off the walls. Adrius leans into the throne, the great hunk of wood standing tall in the mass of ground beneath it. Royal guards clad in snowy white cloaks line the steps up to the tree-like chair, each facing forward, the sunlight bouncing off of their armor. Elizabeth and Leaf are positioned on either side of the throne. Liz is on his right, sitting in a small chair placed on the step. She's looking at the ground, deeply lost in thought. Leaf stands off to his left, his arms behind his back, rocking back and forth on his taloned feet nervously. So do they stand on the second step? The wide one? There's not really room with the throne, right? They'd have to be standing like in front of, either directly to beside him where the word bird is, or like all the way out on either side of the carpet, halfway up the stairs, I imagine. The bird was always skittish, but what happened this morning has left him more on edge than usual. Adrius drums his hard fingertips on the arm of the throne, his patience draining by the minute.
I thought he was already in our custody.
Liz looks up from the ground and straightens her posture, glancing in Adrius's direction before responding.
I'm sure they will be here any moment now. You have to remember, they're not here to be put on trial. The position they've been put in because of this situation. They've been put between the hammer and the anvil, so to speak.
Respectfully, Elizabeth, I don't see it that way. They may not have been caught at the scene of my father's murder, but I feel they're trying just as hard to drag this kingdom into the ground. Your Majesty, I'm afraid I must agree with Minister Renee.
Leaf tiptoes forward a bit, trying his best to keep eye contact, but constantly glancing around the room.
In my experience with him, he only seems to be a bit eccentric. Then explain to me why he would try something so rash. I can't explain that. That is something I am unable to gauge. But don't worry, we're going to find out.
Adrius takes a deep breath and slumps into the large chair. The fact that he would attempt something like this. Everything adds up, but it's still so unpredictable. Not only that, but it could ruin everything.
My only concern is that finding out might open up some more problems.
Even if it doesn't, more problems are sure to come our way regardless.
I hope that...
Liz starts to respond, but she looks in the direction of the large doorway as faint doorsteps can be heard approaching.
Oh, good.
Adrius stands from the throne and watches as two castle guards walk in, their faces stoic. The cat they're escorting, however, looks less than pleased. Even with his slightly annoyed face, Lord Kadaj walks confidently down the hall, following behind the two guards as a few of Kadaj's own Drizzian guards follow behind him. The castle guards stop the Drizzian guards from approaching any further as the cat makes his way up the hall. Kadaj stops a short distance from the steps, up to the throne, and throws himself into a bow, looking up at Adrius and rising from his lowered position.
I had not thought to be summoned so abruptly. But when the guards insisted, well, I guess I had no choice. Your Majesty, was there something else you needed from me?
Adrius toys with his glove, and looks down at Kadaj with a cocked eyebrow.
Was there something I had already requested of you, my lord?
Well, I've scarcely had the luxury of freedom. Being able to go where I please and do as I like. I only assume that there's more restrictions you would like to put in place.
So terribly sorry for the inconvenience, but as you know, we'll be needing you in the next couple of days. Especially considering your role in all of this.
That's the least of our...
By the way, I'm so glad you decided to bring up the topic. It really does beg the question.
Adrius gestures to the southern window.
Why are you trying to leave?
The words echo throughout the hall, rising up to the ceiling like heat in a cold room.
That begs the question of how many flies you have listening in on my private conversations.
Kadaj says this with a bit of levity, but nobody else is humored. He coughs and waves his paw in the air.
I wasn't trying to leave before the trial, if that's what you were thinking.
No? What gave you the assumption you could leave at all?
Kadaj's shoulders rise a bit hearing this.
It just seems that someone decided to slack your leash a bit too much. It will become very tiring having to reel in my close advisors at times as troubling as these.
A close advisor who's also a suspect, as you know. According to your dogs, at least.
Adrius clenches his fist, but his face stays calm.
You don't need to remind me, cat.
Kadaj continues.
Being a suspect, I'm not much help in an investigation aside from answering the questions thrown my way. My next contribution will of course take place 4 days from now.
Liz leans forward in her seat, her chin resting on a balled-up fist.
What is the point you were trying to make?
Kadaj shifts his weight to the other leg, looking up at Adrius, his large green eyes piercing his own with a feeling Adrius can't quite describe.
I would think that reeling me in wouldn't be on your list of priorities. If you wish to take me on as a witness, I will be here, but right now my usefulness seems to have run its course. At least not until the trial.
Adrius sits back down, running his hands along the arms of the chair impatiently.
So you claim you were only making plans to leave after the trial?
In a way, yes. Whether you departed now or later doesn't matter, even leaving after the trial still goes against our agreement with Driz. You understand this, do you not? Of course I do.
Kadaj leans his head to the side, looking down at the ground with theatrical guilt plastered on his face.
If it helps clear things up, I only wanted to be sure such options would be open to me when the time came. Then I was going to bring the proposition to you, Your Highness.
Kadaj gestures to Adrius, who rises in his seat.
That is a very peculiar story.
Peculiar, yet true. That is one thing people never expect from me, but I tell the truth quite a lot. To me, it doesn't make much sense to make such a proposal without first knowing whether my retainers would be able to make the journey so soon. I'm sure all of us have figured it out, but just to be clear, what is this proposal?
Liz smooths out her robes and straightens her posture, as if to let Kadaj know that he has her full, undivided attention.
I know that contact with Aaron in my own kingdom has already been attempted, but I feel that it won't be enough to cool the flames even after this business is settled with our unfortunate Irinian lord.
He steps forward a bit. Adrius can't help but be intrigued by what he had planned. He knows that he can't be trusted entirely, but something about this cat strikes his curiosity. As Kadaj tries to continue with his plea, a commotion can be heard coming from up the hallway. The racket gets louder, and everyone stands and turns toward the entrance. The guards at the door stand at the ready, while 2 of them go out into the hall. When they return, a few more guards and 2 members of the Royal Guard enter. One of them is Finn, the eagle who usually gets assigned with Bjorn. The other one looks to be worse for the wear, his arms slung around Finn's shoulder for support. His cape is ripped and armor scuffed and scratched. Adrius quickly realizes that it's Lyle. His face is wrapped in bandages, with one of his eyes covered up. One would be surprised if he could even speak with the amount of bandages wrapped around his snout. He seems to be able to walk easily, but his head slumped down into the fur around his neck shows that he's not entirely with it.
Lyle!
Leaf scuttles down the steps up to the throne, making his way over to Lyle. Scuttles down the steps from the throne, not up to the throne, right?
Yeah, scuttling down the steps that lead up to the throne, but it is kind of confusing.
But it's like, it's very disorienting. Lyle pats Finn on the chest, and Finn lifts Lyle's arm off his shoulder, backing away cautiously and allowing Lyle to steady himself. Damn.
We got all the voices. Everybody's here. Right, it's an eye patch. That's a little like the eye patch is like about as big as his eyes. So
yeah,
so like, oh god, what happened?
Good lord.
What did I just say, Lyle?
Leaf is practically running circles around Lyle, checking him, then making him bend down so he can get a good look at his face.
Oh my, your wounds look terrible.
There's a bit of an irony to him getting the medical attention before reaching Leaf.
These bandages look awful too.
I'm fine.
No.
Doing the I got stung by a bee on the nose voice.
They muzzle bandaged him.
Yeah.
Oh baby.
Leaf looks up at Finn.
How did this happen to him?
Lyle blushes and looks at the ground, and Adrius can't tell if it's from embarrassment or all the commotion Leaf is causing. The wolf looks exhausted, enough to make Adrius's concern almost match his curiosity. Have we ever voiced Finn before?
I don't think so.
You didn't voice anybody in the scene.
Yeah. A villager found me at the gates to the castle and told me that Bjorn was attacking the captain in the markets. I quickly grabbed as many castle guards nearby as I could and made our way into the village. When we got there, Reed had been beaten into a bloody mess, and Bjorn was laying on top of him unconscious. Reed was barely conscious, holding together the best he could. A few guards asked around, and the townsfolk said Reed was acting in self-defense. One villager said he went for a less violent approach, and once he did, it was over before they knew it. Bjorn's fists were covered in blood, and there wasn't a scratch on him.
Why had he passed out then?
We don't really know for sure. He's currently being taken to the infirmary.
It could be his chest pains again. If they got worse, it could have been what caused him to pass out.
Leaf turns to Adrius.
You see, he's been a bit ill lately.
Adrius points to one of the castle guards.
You there. I need you to go with Leaf to the infirmary so he can check on Sir Bjorn. Come back once he no longer needs your services.
Leaf walks up to Finn, the eagle towering over him.
Are Lyle's injuries truly as grave as they look? Or was this just a bit too much bandages from someone hoping to be a field doctor one day?
Calm down. You weren't there.
Yeah, Daddy.
Sorry, man.
It's too fast.
He slowly pans his head in the direction of the other guards, and a few of them try to avoid eye contact. He was all bruised up and bleeding. Looked like he got punched quite a few times in the sniffer.
Not the sniffer.
Not
no.
the sniffer. Not the
sniffer.
sniffer. No. Don't punch me in my sniffer. No, please. One of his eyes was a bit swollen, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't horribly damaged. Lyle tries to speak up, each word coming out slowly and a bit slurred. The bandages around his snout don't help either, acting almost as a muzzle.
I can still see.
Leaf beckons Lyle to bend down so he can inspect him. The bird lightly clasps his face between his gloved wings and slightly lifts the patch on top of Lyle's eye.
Your eye looks like it'll be fine with proper treatment. Just got all swollen from being punched so many times.
You've got a bad case of punched-itis. Leaf throws his wings into the air in exasperation.
Was the blood even properly cleaned? Heavens!
Adrius sinks into his seat, letting out an annoyed sigh.
No, I shouldn't judge. It's a good temporary treatment. Nevertheless...
Leaf breaks into a small run towards the door, sprinting backwards and calling out to Finn.
Make sure to have Lyle brought to me as soon as possible.
I definitely expect Leaf running around to look like Ponyo from that Studio Ghibli movie, where she's got the little khaki bird legs, just skittering real fast.
Of course. The guard that Adrius addressed runs after Leaf, following the small bird out into the hall. Lyle clasps his paw to his face, rubbing the side of his head.
Lyle, how are you feeling? Do you remember what happened?
Kadaj is now sitting on the steps leading up to the throne, holding his tail between his paws. Lyle attempts to respond, but the bandages around his face make it difficult to get even a single word out. He grabs the bandages around his muscle and stretches them out, allowing them to move his jaw easier, and for them to not work as bandages. Finn makes a hasty motion to stop him from hurting himself, but he finishes messing with the wraps and continues speaking. Bad flashback to like when my brother got his his wisdom teeth removed, and you're all stitched up in there and so on, and you're also drugged up and stupid and everything. And one of the first things he tried to do was exactly what he was told not to do, because his reaction to a lot of being told not to do stuff is to immediately do it. He just goes into the bathroom, looks in the mirror, and just like stretches out his mouth to look. And it's like, no, it's the exact thing you're not supposed to do. You're gonna get a dry socket, you dumb bastard. So just Lyle bandaged up on the muzzle. I'm like, let me just stretch out these bandages. That's what they're for.
I'll be getting new ones in a bit anyway. To answer your question, I feel fine. I've been through worse.
He moves his jaw around uncomfortably while speaking, as if setting it back into place. Adrius looks at him, eyebrow raised. He knows that Lyle's had worse happen to him. Still, his pain tolerance must be pretty high. He can't help but remember when he was a young prince and Lyle was just a squire. He had to wear that eye patch for a whole week after getting back from...
The
incident.
I don't care about any of that. What truly happened in the market?
Lyle recoils slightly, yet still tries to answer the question.
Well, Bjorn attacked me because... hold on, everything is a bit fuzzy. Just try to start over from the beginning.
Lyle looks around the room, thinking to himself. After a few moments, he shakes his head in disappointment.
I'm sorry, but I really can't remember much of what happened. Just feelings and emotions. Everything's a blur. Do you remember when we talked earlier? A little bit, yeah. I remember most of that, actually.
It'd be extremely funny if Lyle just forgot the evidence that he just worked to obtain, but I assume he's lying.
I feel like he's lying,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's supposed to have a satchel on him.
Yeah, but I assume he's lying instead of revealing all this information in front of literally everyone at once.
Yeah.
Adrius looks in Liz's direction.
When did you two talk?
When I went outside earlier.
Adrius looks back over to Lyle, gesturing with his hand.
What feelings do you remember?
Lyle contemplates this for a moment, then answers.
Anger.
I'd be angry too if someone did that to me.
Lyle looks down at the ground in shame.
I remember I was winning, but I didn't want to hurt him. Is that why you lost?
I didn't lose.
Possibly.
I mean, according to witnesses, only one of them was conscious. Adrius leans forward in his seat, placing his elbows on his thighs and looking down at Lyle.
Yes, well, I thank you for not butchering one of your guards.
Adrius knows Lyle would have easily won a duel with Bjorn if he truly was out for blood. Bjorn is most definitely to blame for this fight, but why would he do it?
I'm sure your recollection of the events will come back in due time. Most likely at your own convenience.
Not knowing what or why this happened is truly what bothers Adrius. Bjorn's prone to violence, but not without his own twisted reason. The idea that he would lash out. Maybe he knows something Adrius doesn't. He thinks to himself for a few seconds before Liz speaks up.
Yes, let's hope for a full recovery on both ends. Bjorn will be the one will be punished accordingly once he wakes from his hibernation, if all holds true. That's not
racist.
cool, Liz. Jesus.
Racist.
Like, I love that's especially as the human, like all the animals just turn to her like, oh, come on, Liz.
So she emphasized that. What the hell?
I'm just
Also,
saying. Didn't mean it.
It's also as like a joke, a joke to throw at the idea of a heart attack. Adrius nods his head.
Well, I was curious, like, are we just assuming that like Adan truly did not come back and he did just have a conveniently timed heart attack? Because I was also like, what if Adan knocked him out and Leaf was also covering? Because that was my one thing about like Leaf's show, and I was like, is Leaf covering for Lyle here to say like, oh, I'm sure he's been very sick, you see.
I think that I think this was set up before at some point, him having chest pains, but I'm not entirely sure. But also Leaf doesn't.
I mean, Lyle did
also
something to him.
Leaf wouldn't know to cover for Adan because he doesn't even know about him being there in the first place. And the way that it was specifically described was that he was basically winning, but then mid-sentence he just kind of like had the weird spaced out words, then passed out, but Lyle didn't see what happened. And then
he says like
because
like,
they said he was coughing.
And then so it's like there's something is up with him for a bit, but we don't see so we just hear him struggle to get the rest of the sentence out and then collapse, and then we hear footsteps afterwards is all we get. So he might have genuinely just had a heart attack or something.
Got it. I guess maybe Adan getting help might have really just been like, he got the townspeople out to stare.
Well, he got the guards. That's how Finn got there.
Oh, so he ran all the way to the castle. Jesus. Okay. I thought I really got like fixated on like I thought he just went back into his blacksmith shop or something.
That's nice. Bye. A member of the royal guard causing such chaos needs to be handled with care. No punishment at all is out of the question.
You're free to go, dog. Go have Lee fix you up. We can't have you looking like that on the day of the trial.
Adria,
You little shit. Adrius holds up a hand, silencing her.
Next time, don't lose the fight so easily. A dog who can't keep his subordinates in check doesn't really inspire.
No apostrophe. Bad. Lyle motions to leave in a huff, and as he's walking out, Adrius rises from the throne.
Better yet, I want you wearing that helmet of yours on the day of the trial. Cover up the bruises and whatnot. Can't have your lover seeing you like that.
Adrius.
Set a good example for the Royal Guard for once.
Jesus Christ, he's really laying into this, like,
He's
mutilated
literally
wolf.
already a beaten dog.
Yeah, making you seem really unguilty, Atreus. Lyle's already leaving the hall, followed by Finn and a few castle guards still remaining. Kadash's guards also follow behind and stand by the door. It's a weird order for people to leave in, since the castle guards were holding back the Kadash guards, but they left before the Kadash guards and just left them with the king.
What a
I
show.
forgot that Kadaj was still here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love they talked about he's like literally just sitting there like playing with his tail fur, like just like, ooh.
Yeah.
Drama.
I imagine Kadaj being here is why he didn't immediately out the information, because all the mixed company. He probably would want to tell Liz separately.
Oh yeah, and there's a
something.
Rizian dagger at the scene of the crime. Anyone?
Yeah. Like he probably wants to tell either Richter or Liz first, out of the people involved. Liz turns around in her chair, looking at Adrius with disgust in her eyes. I forgot she's supposed to be seated. I don't know where. It makes his stomach lurch, but he resolves to show no emotion.
Must you be so harsh on him?
Adrius points to the doorway and gestures to the remaining royal guards in the hall. Ah, there's royal guards in addition to the castle guards and the the other guards. There's categories.
Don't question me in front of them again. Do you understand?
Liz has a look of shock on her face for only a moment, before she quickly backs down. Her fist is tightly clenched, but Adrius doesn't notice.
Yes.
Oh, hang on.
He almost
My food's
hated
here.
saying that. Your food.
Someone take over.
But he can't let her assume that he can be scolded like a child. The more problems Lyle and the rest of them cause, the more his disdain for them grows. Adrius leans back in his chair, his gaze falling upon Kadaj. You'll have to forgive them for this slight interruption. Nothing like that has happened in a long time.
It's all right. When I saw what had happened to the captain, I had feared the worst. Why don't we continue from where we left off? What was the proposal you were planning on making?
Okay, I'm back.
Ah, yes. I understand that you've already tried to make contact with Driz. I'm afraid that it won't be enough, however.
So what is it you want?
Send me instead. At the end of the trial, I'll leave the city and make for Driz. I can then speak with the king, Aram, personally. Clear all of this mess up and then return once the flames have settled. As your recently appointed Minister of Foreign Relations, I believe this to be the best outcome.
Adrius lets out a quick laugh.
How could we possibly be sure you would return?
There are two very simple reasons. Having spent quite a while there recently, I'm sure Minister Renee can Reen can personally confirm that us Drizians are very true to our word. Our promise means a lot to us.
Adrius looks to Liz, who begrudgingly nods her head.
I'm sure you're also aware of the other reason.
That being?
I'm not just faithful to one kingdom.
Adrius rolls his eyes.
Your faith in both Lyre and Driz is expected.
close, but that's not what I meant. I put my faith in all of the kingdoms. I serve Tigran, not just the kingdom I'm currently helping.
Kadaj takes a step up the stairs.
Now do you understand? I wasn't chosen to come here by some king. I volunteered. Lyre's reconnection with Driz and Aaron is paramount if this kingdom wishes to heal the wounds that have been placed upon it.
Those last words cause something inside Adrius to break. He looks the cat in the eyes, as if his gaze could pierce the back of the feline's head.
Reconnection? Cooperation?
I also really like the image of Adrius like eating carry out while he's having this conversation on the throne. No, that's actually pretty good. Like he would have that moment of just kind of like taking out the dipping sauce, like, interesting.
Yeah.
Kadaj nods his head.
Yes, I'm sure that there are plenty of reasons why that could be beneficial. The powerful and advanced kingdom of Driz exports many valuables. Gold, so plentiful that it covers the desert's shimmering sands. Salt, that precious mineral that preserves our meats. Not only that, but it helps with the flavor too. Wouldn't you agree?
Strange statement. Would you also agree that water is wet? Kadaj furrows his brow.
I suppose.
Stone, granite, materials as sturdy as their people.
Adrius rubs his hand along the arm of the throne.
I would like to add another pair of exports more common than those prior.
His voice shakes a bit as he raises his tone.
Weak-willed rulers, incapable or unwilling to solve the problems they create, and bandits who travel this world stripping everything good from it.
Excuse me? That is not the case. Wars have been started over words less blunt than yours. If your father heard you say such things...
Can't, and I'm afraid he never will. Neither will my mother. I find myself sitting alone in a court meant for many. My meals are quiet and cold, devoid of motherly concern or fatherly pride. My castle and kingdom goes unchanged without my direct influence. Between your absolute inability to solve even the most basic of issues, and allowing your bandits and brigands to take my mother, as well as the exceptionally unexceptional diplomat from Aaron conniving and conspiring to steal my father...
Gasp.
I find myself utterly alone on this throne. As for war, what have we to fear of your martial might? You're incapable of disbanding barely armed peasants who would scatter like fleas if a real army descended upon them. My father offered what little assistance he could, but it sadly wasn't enough. It seems both parties were incapable of ridding the world of this pest.
That...
Adrius interrupts him once more, continuing with his rant.
I think you'll find my forces far more up to the task of combat while under my guidance. We'll see what happens when 5,000 trained soldiers smoke out that rat's nest.
Adrius lets out a small laugh, which can barely be heard under his breath.
There's an idea. Maybe I'll solve our little problem and clear the canyons myself.
Kadaj's tail swishes side to side anxiously as he speaks up.
Where are you going with all of this? If you expect me to fight with you on the subject, you're mistaken. Although I must strongly advise against causing tension between Driz and Lyre.
Oh, don't worry. This is all purely hypothetical. I would never dream of doing such things without consulting my loyal Minister of War.
He turns to Liz as he says this, her brow furrowed and face filled with concern, yet still managing to muster a weak smile. He returns his gaze back to Kadaj.
I'm merely calling out the weaknesses of your kingdom. You understand what I'm saying, correct? The healing of the wounds left on this country or kingdom is inevitable, while Driz and Aaron continue to let their wounds fester. It's as if they have much more important things to worry about.
Adrius swings his leg to the side, reclining to his seat further.
I can assure you, I will bring peace to this kingdom if it's the last thing I do.
Sits gaily as possible. Kadaj gives a worried yet determined look, his eyes glinting in the light from outside.
Do as you wish, Your Highness. But what is your verdict on my proposal?
Adrius sits on the throne silently, thinking to himself. Letting the cat leave after the trial could serve to be useful. It depends on how things turn out in the end.
Very well. You want to return home so badly. If all goes well with this trial, you may do so.
Kadaj looks up, his ears rising.
I have your word?
Yes.
Very well.
The cat bows slightly.
You're dismissed. We'll speak of this later if all goes according to plan.
Kadaj gives another bow in both Elizabeth's and Adrius's directions.
Minister, Your Majesty, I await the next chance we can speak on this matter.
His tone of voice is very curt, and Adrius can tell he's angry, yet satisfied that he got his good outcome. He walks toward the exit, his tail curved between his legs. His guards quickly follow behind him. Once again, the room is occupied only by Adrius, Liz, and the royal guards, with Leaf being the only one missing. Adrius sits unmoving on his throne, his chin resting on one hand, as the other grips the arm of the throne. The guards stand at attention as the footsteps retreat into the distance, their bounding echoes dying out until the only sound is the scream of silence. It rebounds up and down the hall until even the hardened guards must shift in their armor if just to dispel the lack of noise. The king, however, stays as still as a marionette cut free of its strings.
The bandits are such an obstacle for the foolish and fearless, are they not, Liz?
I suppose.
Adrius looks down upon his guards.
Sir Terran, would you be so kind as to find one of the servants? Tell them to retrieve the headsman. They need a visit with the accused like they usually do. Give them solace and renew their faith, saving them from their sins. Or maybe not. Religion was never my expertise. Have it done either way.
Sir Terran bows and strides out of the hall, their cape fluttering behind them. Adrius watches on with a dry look on his face. Liz sits next to the throne, straight-faced and stoic, like a statue, yet her eyes tell a different story. Adrius can't be bothered, however.
The two of you in the front can stay. The rest of you are dismissed.
The guards turn on their heels and walk out of the grand room, their armor clattering as they trail off. Only two of them stay standing in place, still as statues. Liz rises from her seat and leaves through one of the doors behind the throne. It slams behind her with a loud thud. The room is drowned in silence once more. Adrius closes his eyes and reclines into the throne. His chest feels heavy, but his mind is focused. Too focused to rest. It feels as if he's running without moving his body at all. Then it stops. Suddenly, he's one with himself again. Or had he only left his true self behind? Richter. That's going to have to be for next time, though.
Okay.
My food's been
staring at me.
Yeah. Another Lyle defeated.
Low-key spoilers, but the headsman has a sprite, and I'm so excited for you guys to see that fucking sprite.
Oh.
He's my favorite. He's my big favorite.
He's my favorite.
Oh.